and hopefully we'll post it to Facebook later. A couple things to note, the Fern Show's this weekend. If anybody wants to help, talk to Ken, see what he needs.
And should I say it's more fun than work? We're gonna sit in a tent and they have raffles.
So a couple things we have up and coming. As we get the ball rolling, because I've only been ESA president for a couple weeks now. But I've already had discussions with the Arboretum on our plans for the Penteco. In the coming months, we will probably need a lot of volunteer help because basically we have to repot the whole entire collection.
Really?
Yeah. So as soon as we can, we're going to be bringing in truckloads of soil, and that will be our first big volunteer party. We'll probably do it over a weekend. We're going to need to mix about 5 cubic yards of soil. So shovels and arm strength. Yes.
5 cubic yards.
Yes.
Wow.
So we'll get that when we get that together, we'll post it to Facebook and we'll give everybody a week or two notice to try to get it all to come together. And then once we get the soil done, we can just start tackling it in earnest. Hopefully we can get the majority of everything done this year. Is there anything else, or are we good for the show and tell?
Well, I'll do that, and then I'll talk about the programs that we're gonna have in the next.
Okay. Who all brought flowers?
How about two?
Okay. Well, come on up.
And show us and tell us.
Okay, all lang syne. It's Fred Stegner hybrid, but I named it. Okay, and I think that was the time. I think there was all these holidays and things like that, because I named one after, also I did, and also what Gary Brenfelder, but this is the one. Okay, this is an old one of mine. I will probably register this year, and it'll have a, in Latin, and I already forgot what it is, but it'll have a, in Latin. I'm gonna go into my Latin period, religious Latin things and songs and things like that. I remember what you hear during holy days and Christmas. Anyway, I'll probably register, and that's it.
That's a real big one. Extra large, right?
All right. Well, I got the most, so I guess I'll. That's Medora.
That's done nicely too.
Yeah, it opened about 4 o'clock this morning because I was out with coffee.
Yeah, they usually open at 9.
This one's kind of flopped. That is Serena Reese.
Pretty.
So it looks a lot like Vanilla Sunset, except a little more pink in it and triangle growth instead of the more flat.
What is the name? Sorry.
Serena Reese.
2 words?
Yes. Here's a seedling of mine. I doubt very much that I'm going to register this. This is probably going to end up in the trash bin. But it is, I like the color, but the shape, I don't really know if I like it enough. But this is its second year and it really didn't improve any. So I'm probably not going to go, I might give it a third year, but it's doubtful it's going to get registered. So, but I wish I could just get a little better shape with it. The petals, it really looks good on sideways with the recurved petals, but the irregularity on it is the inner petals always seem to fold up.
Oh.
So I just
Yeah, and there are a lot of them that color.
Yeah.
Similar, so it's.
So
What's the price?
It's Chichi Castanango by Annoyed.
Well, that's an
I keep crossing with Chi-Chi ever so often, just hoping that I could get Chi-Chi growth with a colored flower. But
It doesn't work out that way.
no. And believe it or not, crossing with Chi-Chi, it is 99% of what blooms, no matter what you put on it, ends up being white.
Oh,
Isn't that like the only day blooming species or something like that?
Just about. Michelle Davis. So
yeah.
it's a really nice pink to grow. At the beginning of the season, it can be about twice as big as what these are. This is kind of the end of the bloom for it.
Not yet, just starting, or whatever. Yeah.
A little Casper.
Those are pretty, yeah.
Yeah. It's a pretty flower, but I think if I had to recommend it all over again, I would have told Dawn not to register it. Galen and I both told Dawn to register it, and I
It seems to be sturdy, it holds up.
it is, but I think right from the start he put it on a graft, and the plant doesn't grow well.
Oh, see, that's what you get. But you know, on these things, we haven't seen any.
This is Color Splash,
Yeah.
and this is actually 2 days old. I'm really surprised it held up like that.
Yeah, it still looks good.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
And this is Party Piece.
Wow.
And if you don't grow that one, I recommend it. It bloomed really dark this year, which is nice. It normally is just a little bit lighter, but the colors in it today are just fabulous.
Is that red? I mean, really red?
Yeah, it's red with like magenta on the outer edges.
See, that's one color that we cannot get in an iris.
Yeah.
And everyone wants to get that red.
And most of the time we don't
They
get
lose it.
pure red. Just solid reds
Rose
or,
red.
or yeah.
Yeah.
It almost looks like black light. Yeah, that's what.
Let's see if I can remember this. Oh yeah. Okay, that's salmon catch.
That's salmon, yeah. Nice salmon. Oh, they all hold up very nice.
If they're not extra large, then they.
It's shimmer.
Oh,
My shimmers this year were all smaller than normal.
very cute. This Epiphyllum. Oh, yeah.
Shimmer has tons of pollen.
Oh, here comes it.
This tends to be one of my favorites.
Wow,
West Coast.
wow.
It's beautiful.
This plant will put out a lot of blooms. It routinely has about 15 to 20 blooms.
Wow.
West Coast sometimes.
And unfortunately, this one's been open for 2 days, so it's a little drab. But that's Natasha Fletchig.
Flexig.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
And last but not least, orangutan. And this is one of my favorite oranges, and my main plant of it this year is on its 35th bloom, and this is the smallest one.
Oh, my.
The first one that opened this year was 14 inches wide. Yeah.
And what's the name of it?
Orangutan.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, it's Evelyn Shiraki.
Yeah. Oh, that's gorgeous.
Yes, I did. That was that was the second bloom that opened. I won. What did I win? That was I won something at the San Diego show with the orangutan.
We got third for timeless.
Yeah.
Yeah, first with that.
The one that
Which
won
one's the
this,
president? Is
this
it
following
gonna-
by another member was also orangutan.
Yeah. And I got Chiba Lovely Dawn opening tomorrow, and another orangutan. So
Gorgeous. We'll come back.
do you know?
Let's see, that is Autumn Pink. They've been open for a couple days, so they're not that great.
Yeah, we missed that one.
Let's see, what is that? Oh, that came from the Pentico. That is Simpatico. That is Simpatico.
What's the name of it?
Simpatico.
Fish is,
That is Sugar Bear.
That's the one you sent us.
That's
That's
Sugar Bear.
beautiful.
That's the one you posted on
I
Facebook.
posted it.
Yeah.
It's been open for 2 days, so.
Is this the same flower?
Same
Oh,
flower.
okay. Well, for a white, it's held up.
Yeah. I like the cup. You don't see the cup shape very often anymore.
And then I know what this one is.
Yep,
That's
Oh,
a
I love it.
that's another Casper.
another Casper.
It's still beautiful.
Yeah.
Yep. Mine grows really good. I have a humongous.
It grows all right.
It's
Mine
like-
spots
it's like
quite a
6
bit, but
feet dangling things.
if you bump up against it, it's pretty brittle.
It's
Yeah.
it's brittle and it's got spines and
Taking good care of it.
so.
I fit mine last.
All right, that's it for flower show and tell.
Thank you.
Jim's going to introduce our speaker.
Before I introduce Jill, I just want to talk about a couple of programs that's coming up. Next month, if you didn't get a chance, who didn't see the show that we had? Who didn't see it? Okay, well, you're in luck because next month we'll have a showing of the show. As much as Phil have taken, Phil took lots of pictures, so we're gonna see that over again, and also the awards presentation
That's right.
will be also at the July meeting. So I don't know exactly, it's always kind of iffy with the 4th of July, and our meeting is always close by. So that's gonna be the meeting for July, and I believe August will be Geneva's talk on Ripsalis, or
The species. I'll try and show a lot of different species.
And in September, we're gonna have our own potluck dinner, hopefully at Ayers Hall. And also, we're gonna have our fundraiser, which is a silent auction, in which we'll try to get some,
We're already in September. Oh, it's scary. Time goes too
probably
fast.
some hybrids that hasn't been spread around. Because we do have several hybridizers here. We have Richard Klug, there's myself, and then there's Gary Brandfelder. And I'm sure we're gonna have a lot of new unregistered hybrid, but by the time that month comes along, they should be registered by then. Okay, and for this month, again, who has read their newsletter regarding our program?
I read it.
Well, our guest is Jill Bonino.
Bonino.
Bonino, okay? I knew there was something there. But I really don't, because she belongs to a lot of the Iris Club and societies in which you'll mention. And also, she's been collecting irises since 2007.
Before that.
Even before that,
In
okay,
the 90s.
because that's what I remember. And also, we're all in luck, she donated about 10 or 7, what would you call them, rhizomes to some lucky winners who, hopefully everybody got their ticket.
Yep.
And about 7 or 8 of you will be getting rhizome for the drawing for that, so. Right, so I'm gonna introduce you, Jill, and welcome to the ASM meeting.
Good evening. Thanks for inviting me. I spoke to this group, probably 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Longer, maybe longer than that. So it's been a while. But I've been involved with irises since the mid-90s, joining the local Iris Club and then the National American Irish Society. And over that time, I've had various positions. Currently, I'm treasurer, national treasurer for the American Iris Society and for the American Iris Society Foundation. My local club, Southern Cal Iris Society, meets in this room normally, and we have our annual show in Ayers Hall, and we sell at South Coast Plaza.
We did that too.
One of your members was a customer of ours this year. What I've got tonight is not so much what our iris is, but there have been so many advances in hybridizing over the last 20 to 30 years, particularly in the area of color, that I've put together a program, and I've given this program before. The AIS does webinars, which you can see on YouTube. If you go to the YouTube channel, the American Iris Society has a site. And now I've changed, since I did it for them, I've changed it here because it's always being updated. Each year, new flowers come out with different embellishments. It's
That's good.
some have more bling than others, but ask me any questions as we go through. The first part of the program is more on the terminology of showing you a flower, and this is the color pattern that the American Iris Society has given to it. We're still working on an entire color terminology list. We've updated our handbook the last couple of years, and so we're still working on some of the newer patterns to get the hybridizers. Please give us a name for this, because the hybridizers have to tell us what do they want to call it.
Yeah.
So even though tonight I'm focusing primarily on the flower, if you've got any questions about the plant or planting or anything, let me know that too.
Okay.
I organized this so that you can see the color patterns of irises have all been inside the genetics of the plant forever. A lot of these color patterns you can see in older iris that were introduced over 100 years ago. So it's just a matter of drawing out the genetics and crossing certain plants with certain plants, like you know from doing epiphyllums, that these color patterns come out. This is in alphabetical order. The first color pattern called Amina is one where the standards, the top petals of the flower are white, and the falls, the bottom petals, can be any color. Early ones used to had blue or purple falls, and Pinnacle was the first yellow Amina, and they call it that if it's an Amina, they call it either a blue Amina or a pink Amina, or based on the color of the falls. They haven't really gotten a pink Amina yet. This is Pinnacle that I took in our yard a few years ago, and this is the older form. You can see the iris petals are not as wide. They're not as ruffled. They don't have as much substance as the newer flowers, which you will see coming up. They've really done great work over the last several decades in improving the flower form. On the left, Wabash is a purple Amina. Full figured is a tall bearded iris of the more modern form. And then Tree of Songs is a Siberian iris that has the white standards and the yellow falls. So the colors flow through all the different classes of iris, whether it's tall bearded or spurious or Louisianas or intermediate Pacific Coast. You'll see the same color patterns through all of them. except for the red. The red iris, no one has been able to get yet. Now, a bicolor iris is one where the standards and falls are of different colors. The falls are usually darker than the standards, but it doesn't have to be that way. It started out that way, but it's not that way now. Tetraploid iris advanced to this pattern, and the tetraploid was a form. There was diploid iris before that, which had fewer chromosomes. And don't ask me too much about genetics, because I don't know that much. But diploid iris didn't have as many chromosomes as tetraploid, and tetraploid brought in a lot of the modern, bigger, more substantial form. On the top left, if you can see, that's Mary Geddes. That's an old Dykes Medal winner from the 40s. It's got two different colors. Sweet Musette is a pink and a lavender purple. And then the one on the bottom is Man's Best Friend, which is a really good growing iris with the blue standards and that kind of cherry wine falls. Very, very pretty. Bitone. The bicolor and the bitones get mixed up. This is the one where you have the standards, the top petals and the falls are of different shades of the same color. Okay. On the left, Rosy Wings, another early Dykes Medal winner with two different shades of pink. And then Wild Wings, which is a more recent introduction, has two different colors of purple. That's rain.
Wow.
I took that right after a rain.
That is a dark purple.
A blend. This can be a lot of things. A blended iris is where you have a combination or a mixture of two or more colors, and sometimes now we're getting 3 and 4 colors within the same flower, are present in the same parts of the flower. This has gone into color washes, bands, early in hybridizing and I would say this is in the 40s and the 50s, the breeders were trying to develop and clarify the self patterns, the solid single color. And so they weren't paying any attention to any of these others. So who knows what happened to a lot of them. This is a relatively new one, the Della's Destiny, that has 3 or 4 colors, depending on how you look at it, on the falls. It's considered an amina, but it's a blended amina. Thornbird, a Dykes Medal winner from the 90s, has multiple colors on the falls. And then Like a Rainbow, again, you've got at least 2 and possibly 3 in Like a Rainbow. The Luminata, I don't know where they get these names. The hybridizers, they came up with them, but I'm not sure what their source was. This is a color pattern from Placata breeding. The falls have a brushed pattern with paler veins, always pale, and a clear unmarked area or spot around the beards. These showed up in the early 1940s, and Moonlit Sea, introduced in 1942, became a prototype, and I think I've got a picture of that. Yeah, this is Moonlit Sea. And again, the older floppy type of form, but you see the lighter veins in the falls. They tend to glow. They have, I guess, lumen. That's sort of where they got luminata, but I don't know. But very different. And then on the left is a blue limonada, and I don't have the name on that one. And on the right is telepathy. They can be various colors. They don't have to be just purple or pink or, but you know, it's a color pattern, you know it when you see it. The neglecta. This is a pattern you don't see too often, and it's only specific to the color blue. You have an iris with light blue standards and darker blue colored falls. Why they singled out blue versus yellow or orange or pink, I don't know. But the neglecta always refers to a bitone blue iris. And there's the lighter blue on the top, the standards, and the darker blue on the falls. This is proud tradition. Placata, another name, who knows where they got it from. A color pattern where a lighter ground color is stippled, dotted, or stitched with a darker color. Irises with blue stitching over a white ground were growing 400 years ago. Madame Chiraut, introduced in 1840, is still grown today. This is another color pattern that took off with tetraploid advances. The flowers got much bigger. This is the very first winner of the Dykes Medal, which is the highest medal an iris can win. And it's judged by the judges of the American Iris Society each year. And this is, the very first winner was a purple white placata. 1927.
It's a while ago.
Now here are some other purple white placatas. Jellicle Cat is a standard dwarf, so it's a short iris. Jessie Song is a classic standard iris that's been around for a long time, that just always blooms well. The fancy placata. This is an extreme placata type, having a riotous mixture of colors and denser dotting on the falls. You have a lot more, there's a lot more activity, busyness on the petals. Temporal anomaly is on the left, and Sorbonne is on the right. And Sorbonne could also qualify as a luminata. You'll find later that there's combinations of all of these things too. It's like you can't just have one breakfast cereal. You have to have one breakfast cereal with all these different enhancements.
Yes.
Now the self is self-explanatory. An iris flower where the standards and the falls are the same color.
Okay.
And these we have gotten every color but red. There's Vanity, a Dykes Medal winner, pink. Well Endowed, gold. Swans in Flight is a Siberian. It's just beautiful. It's the only Siberian that has ever won the Dykes Medal. And then Blackest Black, these seem to be really popular now. We didn't have enough at our sale down in South Coast Plaza. We need to grow more of the really, people really wanted the dark ones. A variegata. Now this is a color pattern with yellow standards. It's always yellow. And darker, usually red falls. Our version of red. I have to qualify it every time. The name is derived from a European species of diploid iris, I. variegata, which has yellow standards and purple falls. But the modern ones are more the reddish, brown, maroon falls. This is Kathy Chilton. And then again, a miniature dwarf bearded, very small iris. These only grow where it's really cold. But you have the variegata pattern, Zoom Boomafoo, and then Whoop 'em Up is, mine just finished blooming in my yard, and it's not a tall beard, it's an intermediate, so it's a little shorter. but it reblooms. Broken color. This started out in the 50s, and nobody liked it. So the hybridizers threw them away,
Oh,
and it came back in the 80s with a hybridizer named Caspera. It's a pattern that appears as a random application of 2 or more colors, possibly due to an unstable gene in the pigment production. No 2 flowers are alike. You get streaks, splashes of color, and to hybridize to get a broken color, you have to use a plicato flower to get it. Here's an old one from 1929 that actually got introduced, Kaleidoscope, where you can see the streaks on the falls. And then Humor-esque was an iris that came out in the 60s from a hybridizer named Keith Keppel, who is still hybridizing, and he's now almost 90.
just a young thing.
Just a young thing. But you can see that the falls are just, it's like you took a paintbrush and just swabbed the color. Shaken all over. The entire flower is broken color. And then Tiger Honey is one of the casperic flowers. He named all of his after African animals.
Oh.
And they have the cutest, funniest names. Modern Madness. This is a recent one from 2020. A broken color, and it's also a space agent. It has little appendages that come out from the beard that you can see right here.
Right there.
This little, it just comes out from underneath the beard and makes a flounce. And now this one, it's like a horn just by itself. We joke that some of these are called spoons, some of them are called forks, some of them are called knives. You know, it's the silverware enhancement.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Splitter splatter. This is a Louisiana iris with broken color. You've just got a couple of little dollops of maroon on each of the falls.
Looks totally different.
I finally got this one, and I think it's gonna live this time. Now, recent patterns that are not in the judge's training book. What you've seen so far is established terminology. What is coming next is some of these have become common usage, but they haven't been put in the book yet. And others we're still working on to see what you want to call it. A reverse amina is also known as a dark top. This is where the standards are a darker color, can be any color. The falls are white. Wintry Sky is a blue top and white bottom. And then Berries and Cream, a Siberian. But the falls are not completely white, but we call it that for these purposes. The Emma Cook pattern. This is a pattern named after an iris named Emma Cook that was introduced in 1959, and it's actually an amina. The standards are always white. The falls have a white ground, but they're edged in blue. Queen Circle won the Dykes Medal, I want to say in the early 2000s. First Emma Cook pattern to win the Dykes Medal. This is an introduction from 23, came out last year, Chase the North Star. And this is the Emma Cook with a much darker blue band, almost purple. But he's listed, the hybridizer, Tom Johnson, listed it as an Emma Cook pattern in his description in the registry, which is what we've got to get them to do. This is something this is relatively recent. The maculosa pattern, it's not broken color. It's patterns and speckles, patterns of speckles on the petals, but it's not the same as broken color. And this iris, Don't Doubt Dalton, which was introduced in 15, this won the Dykes Medal last year. Gesundheit, perfect name.
Oh,
It looks like someone sneezed all over it.
yeah,
It's
that's true.
A miniature tall bearded, so they're smaller flowers, they're not as tall as the tall bearded. But again, you just got these darts and splotches. Now, this is again, a pattern that it's been around now about 25 years, but they haven't officially used it as a pattern, like a Puccini pattern or an expose pattern, and they should, because you see a lot more of variations of this in the more recent introductions. Now, once you get the basic terminology, then we go into the enhancements. The flowers now have edges, bands, veining, thumbprints, zonal spots, center lines. Now, are these color patterns, color features, or enhancements? And this is where we are now. We're kind of got this soup of all these different possibilities, but we're not sure what to call them. Zonal spot or spray pattern is an iris with a white or a lightened area around the beard. And some spots, they're not just a little round area around the beard, but they have stars coming up, spokes coming out from the pattern, which is where the spray word comes from. City lights, now this is a iris from the 80s, very classic, with just the white spot right around the beard. And then Gypsy Lord has more of the spray pattern, because the white spot is bigger. And this is a 2020 introduction from a relatively new hybridizer called Martian Sunset, again with the white spray pattern on the falls. Bands. Now, bands are different colors around the standards and or the falls. They can be both. How wide is a band versus an edge? None of this has been defined. Must the band have a specific edge, or can it wash into the petal color? So several examples of that. Wonders never cease. I'm still trying to get this. I thought I had it and it bloomed this year and it wasn't this. This is an Amina with banded falls. All about spring, you have the band is on the standards around the top petals. And then double ringer, this has two bands. You've got one on the outer edge that's paler, and then an inner edge which is gold. Edges or rims or halos. This is the razor thin or pinstripe edge on either standards or falls. This is an old introduction from 1907, so you can see the attributes, they're in there, in the genetics. It's just bringing them out. And then Tiffany from 1938 has the wire, you can see this wire rim around the standards. It's just a little darker, but it defines, it's like outlining a picture when you're coloring.
Yeah, beautiful. They're from 1907. Key, very nice.
Veining. Now you can have darker veining and lighter veining. Darker veining doesn't have a name yet. but lighter veining indicates the luminata pattern. And this is the lighter veining on the falls, but then on the standards, you've got two different kinds of veining. You've got purple veining here, and gold, a gold edge of veining, and then you've got gold on the styles. This is one of my favorites. It's just got so many combinations of things. Newfound Glory, another one where you've got the veining in the standards, and then you've got the white spray pattern on the falls. Color wash. This is a relatively new term, and it was included in the registration by Keith Keppel in this flower. So we can look at other flowers with this kind of wash and consider it a wash rather than a stripe or blend or spot. The chevron marking, this is just turned up recently. You can see here that you've got a dark spot around the beard, and then it comes to a point. It doesn't go all the way down. And they're calling this the chevron marking. This is like an upside down chevron, the insignia worn by the military.
Looks kind of like a bird to me.
I see a bird.
Yeah.
Waterfall marking. This is similar to the color wash, but it's using the term waterfall. Again, this is another Keith Keppel. He's helping us out. He's really trying to put in names in his description. So I read his stuff every year to see if he's got new words. But this is gorgeous, and it's called ink blot.
So look at the,
Very roughly, you can compare it to the older form from the 40s and the 30s. I mean, this is just voluptuous. There's just ruffles, and some of these have lace, and the petals last a lot longer. You know, you get a good 3-4 days out of a bloom. The flowers last a lot longer.
Because all we advertise, you know.
beautiful.
Thumbprints. These are a solid smudge of different color on either side of the beard. And some of these have been around for a long time. 1939, peacock's eye, 2 dark purple thumbprints, and then Persian berry is, it's been around for a long time. It usually turns up in a lot of gardens with the dark thumbprints around the beard. They can be light thumbprints. Sunset Silhouette has gold thumbprints. Attractive Lady has orange thumbprints. The center stripe. This can be a lighter or a darker stripe of color on the falls, different from the ground cover. Ground color. When does a stripe become a wash? I think we solved that a few slides ago. But this is a Dykes Metal winner from the 50s, whole cloth,
That's a name and a half.
with the center stripe, but it's also trying to blend out there.
Ooh.
And then this is a more modern iris from 13, Jazzberry, just showing the simple line from the beard down to the edge of the falls. Pansy face. This is one that's turned out the last couple of years. This is from 23, where you've got what looks like a pansy face on the falls.
All the ruffles.
Born to Party. Here's another one.
That's full of
The thumbprints have kind of grown together to make a little face. Now we get into color pattern combos. This is any pattern except the south, can be combined with any other pattern for additional color distinctiveness.
The color company.
This is a bicolor
Crazy.
blend with band and thumbprints. It's amazing what there is to see once you focus and look at
I can see-
what the
I can see the
hybridizers have
band,
done.
But where is the thumbprint?
Okay, the thumbprints are right here.
Oh, okay.
They're right next to the beard. You can see them better down here. You've got this thumbprint here and thumbprint there. Egyptian. This is a variegata placata blend with veining and a center stripe.
And it's a space ager.
Looks Egyptian.
Now this has not been introduced. This is a Keppel seedling. And I've looked and I have not seen that he's introduced this. He's real picky. So things that I've liked in his garden haven't always made it to the market. But this is a variegata blend with band and center wash.
Looks pretty. The color. Ooh.
La Scala is a dark top bicolor. This is really subtle. I'm glad this picture came out because this is, I had this a number of years ago. This is really a light pink, but it shows off real well against this, I don't know, purple mauve standard. And then you've got Lunch in Madrid. Now, is this a band around the purple standard? Or is this a mid-rib wash, which they're showing a lot of now in the standards? We're not sure about that. And then you've got thumbprints that kind of cascaded down the petal. So we've got some new language to come up with. Now this is a neglecta broken color. It's the two shades of blue. Blue and purple is hard to distinguish in the iris world. But they're calling this blue. And the standards are broken color as well as the falls. This was introduced about 2000. This is a veined amina. This just came out in 17 by a hybridizer up in Northern California called Kanarowski, and he's another one that's getting into the odd names, zebra butter. But they're very good flowers. This is a bitone placata with banded standards and falls in two different colors.
That is something else.
This is a dark top placata. You can see the little dotting and the stippling, very light on the falls with the dark top.
The beauty in the top. That's different.
This is a new one from last year, and it's like this in my garden right now. It's not, I was hoping it would open
Yeah.
and I could bring a picture, but
That is
it's
so
a flat,
different.
this is a flat placata, the first one.
Flat, oh.
They've not been able to get a tall bearded iris to be in the flat form with the 6 falls and a placata yet, until this one. 1 in a million.
Very different.
Variegata broken color. This is one of the Casparic African named spice tiger. This is an Amina fancy placata with the center stripe. You see the denser dotting on the falls. This is an Amina blend with thumbprint and edging. Because we've got this, it's not really a band, but it is an edge
Yeah.
in a different color. And you've got the thumbprints here, and the standards are white. Here's another new one. This is a veined blend. You have 4 colors on the falls and 2 colors of veins. And this is from another Katarowski, buttermilk and blue cheese. They're just, they're coming up with so many new creative things.
Mm.
This is one of my favorites. It's a banded blend with a little wash on the tip of the falls called Expect Wonders. Now the next pictures I have, I was talking with Jim on the phone. We used to have grass in our yard, in our garden, front and back. And obviously with drought and cutting back on water, we got rid of our lawn, both front and back, over the last 2 to 3 years. And I thought I'd bring some pictures showing the different landscaping with stones, bark, and how I've interplanted the iris in there.
Good, that'd be great.
To just kind of give you an idea of what's possible. And our water bill it's been cut at least in half,
Yeah.
maybe 2/3. Now this is 22. This is the year we did the front. This had been iris, and before that it had been ivy, and gophers just started eating everything, so we took everything out. But I still kept part of it for an iris bed, which I can reach and weed and take care of easier, just on the edge. But the rest is all gopher wire and pebbles and rocks, and there is an epiphyllum in there, which I'll show you in a minute. This is a crepe myrtle, which the gophers ate, believe it or not, even through all of that. So it's now a plumeria. The front, we took the front grass out in 23 and just put bark in. And then I put 3 iris beds here in the front. And then I've got iris in a lot of pots now, and they bloom. If you got a big enough pot, they will grow and bloom.
Cool, wow.
Now this is the backyard in 22 when we did it. This was just a big open bed and had roses until the deer came and ate them. That was about 15 years ago. I had some iris in here, but I broke it up into areas, again, to make it easier to take care of. And I've got soaker hoses in the back. There isn't a way in the front to do the soaker hoses where you don't trip over things. But I was able to put soaker hoses in the back, and this goes all the way back over here. But again, this used to be lawn. And now this is on the other side of the bougainvillea in 23. So these plants are 2 years old, and they're blooming nicely.
Okay, done well. What area are you in?
We live in Glendale, up in Chevy Chase Canyon, so we're a little higher altitude. But we still get hot in the summer.
Yeah, they bloom beautiful.
One thing we have is rocky, sandy soil, which is very good for drainage. This is a little further along the back, showing more of the pebbles and the other pots that I've got set in the middle, and this is on the other side of the bougainvillea. Oh, there's my two
That's some
Epiphyllum.
Epiphyllum.
Yeah, these are last year's. well, yeah, these are 23. I have a darker maroon color in the front. And then, this one I put in a pot, and it needs to be repotted. But it bloomed all over the place last year. But I couldn't tell you what the names are. If any of you can, let me know.
Yeah, no, they all look alike.
Yeah, these are the iris that I brought for the door prizes. Each one in the back is its name. So if your ticket gets pulled, pick which one you would like.
Nice. Easy on the eye.
Any other questions?
It was very.
Yes.
I know you don't use bearded irises as cut flowers, so how long will they last if you cut those and put them in a vase?
If you cut a bloom stalk and put it in a vase, it might last about 3 days. If you leave it on the stalk and let it bloom in the garden, you can get as much as 2 weeks out of a bloom stalk. Because of
Yeah, they're coming up.
depending on the buds, what state of maturing they are. If you cut the stalk too soon to bring it in the house, the buds won't open. Whereas if you leave them outside on the stalk, they will. That is the one disadvantage of irises, is they're not like peonies or roses that you can bring in and they smell wonderful and, you know, they look great. They do better in the garden.
Yeah, it's how they grow.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Nice.
So if you started hybridizing from when you sowed the seed, how long does it take from that seed to grow to maturity to bloom?
To bloom, anywhere from 2 to 3 years.
That's not bad. Epiphyllums take anywhere from 4 years to 7 years, the average of 6 or 7
The
years.
what?
Because hybridizing, say this spring, you get a pod,
Right,
you plant in the fall in a
They have on a.
You know, a little-
right.
container. It might germinate next spring, it might not. If it does germinate next spring, then the following spring it may bloom. But it just depends on the germination and, you know, light, heat, cold, all of those things. And, so it's probably 2 to 3 years is the fastest.
Oh.
And then a lot of the hybridizers, they let them bloom multiple years after the initial bloom, just to make sure that the flower is consistent.
Right,
That it doesn't come up with oddities. They wanna make sure the growth pattern is good, the branching is good, the flower form stays consistent.
Are most, oh, go ahead.
Is most of the growth below ground or above ground once it starts growing from seed? Does it grow the root system first or?
It's probably growing the root system and it's poking up out of it's germinating at the same time. Yeah. I tried hybridizing about 20 years ago and I didn't get very far. The stuff that came out of my seed pods was pretty ugly, so, I'm keeping track of all the different crosses. I mean, any one of those flowers, it's not just one iris crossed with another iris to get this. This is generations and generations of crossing of irises with each other to get that.
Yeah, sure.
So some of these, if you were to get the ancestry of an iris, you know, it would just be paragraphs of paragraphs.
Are they related to orchids?
I don't think so. People mistake them for orchids, but they're not.
For what? For orchids. Oh, really?
Are your hybridizers predominantly in warm weather like California, Florida, Texas? You would think,
They grow in cold areas too.
They're predominantly in the Pacific Northwest.
really? Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
Shriners, Mid-America Garden, Keep Keppel, Mike Sutton are all pretty much in the Pacific Northwest. There are hybridizers in Texas. There are hybridizers in California. more in Northern California than Southern California. There aren't any in Florida. Florida is a tough state to grow iris in. They're so humid, and the ground is too wet in a lot of cases. You can grow Louisianas in Florida, which is great. But, and again, in Louisiana, you can't grow tall bearded iris very well. It's just too hot and humid and wet.
Interesting.
Yes?
How often we have to water the iris?
Okay, the question is, how often do you have to water the iris? When you're first planting them, keep them moist. Don't let them dry out until you can see that it's putting down roots and you're getting little green shoots coming up from the side of the rhizome. Once it's established and growing, they can go a month without water. I mean, they are drought tolerant once they're established.
Yeah.
But you have to get them
And what kind of soil?
more sandy, rocky soil. Clay does not work well. You have to amend it. You have to put in a lot of what's that speckled white stuff that,
Perlite.
thank you. Yes, that you have to mix in to soften the soil and allow it to drain. Because the bearded iris do not like to be wet. They don't like to sit in wet.
So, but they do grow in pots, did you say?
Yes, I have a number of them in pots. Just, it's easier to take care of them. The gophers can't get them. And mostly the snails can't get them, but we're gonna have to do more. I'm having a hard time with snails this year. They're just determined little suckers.
Can you just show basically how deep you should plant this thing?
Sure.
Because I think people are always asking, do you go past a certain area?
Okay.
You
Okay.
can put the lights on, and we can
Yes,
see.
yes, because I'm gonna leave that slide up there so you can see. Do not bury it. It is not a tulip
Okay.
or a daffodil. That's what, from friends of mine who have outside gardeners or landscapers, they want to bury them.
Mm-hmm.
This has to stay on the surface.
Really?
The roots will grow down into the ground. But the sun has to hit the rhizome. It has to stay in contact in order for it to grow and bloom.
Wow.
Yeah, if you put it, if you plant it like this, you're gonna get great leaves, but you're not gonna get any flowers.
Oh, it's a
Yeah.
good thing we asked.
Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting. Yeah, that's how I would have planted.
So you leave all the top part of the rhizome on top of the
On top
soil?
of the soil,
Oh, even in pots?
even in pots. That's one reason why I've cut these down, because some of them are smaller, and if you have all this leaf and you put it in a pot, it's gonna do that.
Yeah.
It's not gonna hold. So watch the top heaviness as you're planting it. Yeah. To make it,
Yeah,
you can, yeah, do anything to kind of,
keep it straight.
yeah. But, because I find they
Yeah.
until the roots get down and really established, and then you're fine.
Cool.
Yeah.
So how long would it take for this to bloom?
If you plant it now, it will bloom next year.
Oh, so.
Okay.
So, once you start bringing them out because they've already bloomed and they started multiplying, does the one in the center, is that like dump that one, the mother bulb?
The mother bulb, yes, you will throw it away because it will have no greenery, it will have no roots. When you've dug up this clump
Mhm.
and you've broken off the individual rhizomes that have green, that are good, you'll see several probably in the middle that are just like old, stump, little, I don't know what you want to call them. But they've done their job. They've lived their life. They're just good.
They're ready to go.
Yes.
Also, the one in the small or the big pot, because I do in 1 gallon and my sister, she put in the big one.
To get it started like this, plant it in the 1 gallon like you did. But once it looks like it's established, like in the fall here where it's cooler, put it in the ground or put it in a bigger pot. because they will tend to not bloom in the 1 gallon pots. It's just too small.
Yeah, it's just,
The roots need space,
yeah.
and then the plant needs space for the babies to grow out.
Mhm.
Yes,
Well, is that like a bromeliad where that one rhizome only blooms once and then the next
Yes.
ones bloom?
yes,
Oh, okay.
that's right.
What was that?
Yes.
I remember
They only
reading
bloom
about
once
several
and then
years
they
ago,
next
about
to
5 years
bloom
ago, they're hybridizing so that a lot of your, bearded irises will bloom twice a year. What's going on with that?
They're called reblooming iris, and the hybridizers are working on getting more of them out onto the market. The original ones, the form was not as good as what you're seeing up there. None of those are gonna rebloom. But they are working on getting really good flower form where it will bloom not just in April, but maybe again in July, September. I've got an orange one called Feeling Spicy Tonight. It will bloom every other month.
Oh,
It just, but they're not all like that.
Bernice Legacy, I have that one, and then that one blooms.
That one will, yes, that's a rebloomer. Frequent Flyer is a rebloomer. Some of them you can tell by the name that it will,
Frequent.
it's supposed to, yeah. And then there are some that the hybridizers will introduce, and they don't tell you that they rebloom, but depending on where you live in the country, they will. So it's one of those odd things. There is a reblooming Irish Society that you can go online and join. And they have lists and lists of ones that they have documented will rebloom and in what part of the country.
Oh, I see. Now, these are all bearded iris. Now,
Yes.
before they were bearded, they were just plain,
They were shaved.
they were what?
They were shaved.
No, but I do know that there are
Oh.
different irises, the bearded and just plain.
Plain in the sense of not bearded?
Yes,
Yes, there are beardless irises.
beardless,
Yes.
okay. Those are the original old ones, right?
No, not
No?
necessarily, no. There is a whole class
Oh.
of beardless irises. Siberian iris are beardless, Louisiana iris are beardless, Spurria iris are beardless,
Okay.
Pacific Coast native are beardless, I think. But yeah, there's two classes
there
of
are
iris,
two
two big
because-
classes of iris, a bearded class and a
I
beardless
just thought the
class.
old-fashioned ones weren't bearded.
No, the old-fashioned ones, they had beards.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, I just thought the hybridized, took care of that.
So they're susceptible to root rot, then you're saying, right? Because they don't like the roots, right? And you have to let it dry out and then you water it again after it's established?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Yeah, you can't overwater them when they're first put in the ground. Now, the beardless iris, like Louisiana's, they love water. You
Oh,
cannot, they will not die of rot.
okay.
They love the water. But again, they're prolific in Louisiana and Florida.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can grow them here, you just have to keep them
Keep them
moister.
moist. Oh, the beardless, the.
Yes.
There's a place I've never been to, but my ex had been there with her parents camping in the Sierras up 395 called Iris Meadows. What kind of iris would that be? Like it's Northern California on your way, you're on the east side of the Sierras.
Oh, when you go.
And they would be
So-
iris like these.
Like
I
a
mean,
typical blue type
Yes.
of iris?
yes.
And that would be native to that area?
I'm not sure I'm understanding. Iris Meadows is a farm
There's a
or?
place called Iris Meadows, like I said, I haven't actually been there, but
Okay,
my in-laws would camp there on the way up
I
on
gotta
the
get
Sierras.
something to
So
drink.
It's Nevada Street, you're, heading right in the Sierra, you're on the east side of the Sierra.
Oh, by Bishop?
Yeah, on the way up to Bishop somewhere, I don't know if
Okay.
it's past it or before it.
Is this like a park
Well,
or
it's a camping,
a camping area? Okay. There may be some iris species
well, that's what
up
I'm
there, like
wondering.
Pacific Coast species, Douglasiana, Iris Douglasiana, and some others that are natives that just grow and naturalize and but they're more than likely not named. They're not like these, which have been
Right, right,
hybridized. They're more of a species type of
Yeah,
iris.
that's what I was wondering.
Is there a catalog company or flower company where you could order that reliable, that you can?
You have, well, you would think I gave you that question to ask me.
Uh-huh. Oh, the handout.
I have handouts. I only have 10. This is the most recent issue of the Irises, the American Iris Society magazine. It's the shopping section. And it has, I've got 4 pages here of where you can get any kind of iris. The bearded, the beardless, the Louisiana, the tall bearded, the reblooming, anyway, so I've got 10 here. This is the most recent information. Everybody pretty much has been set up now where you can order online. And this is the time of year to order because they will ship in July and August, at least of the bearded irises. They'll ship the beardless a little bit later in August, September, October.
And then they will bloom this year, right?
They'll bloom the following spring.
Oh, the following spring.
Yes. But these are plants, I mean, what I've shown you tonight, you're not gonna see these in your local nursery. You have to get them from iris hybridizers. They're just not in the typical Armstrong, Lowe's, Home Depot, garden market. But feel free to take those if you're interested.
Is this the time of the year to plant?
This is the time of year to start, digging them up, separating them,
Oh, I
and
see.
throwing out the old ones. Now, it hasn't gotten too hot yet,
Yeah.
so for these that you have tonight, if you want to put them in a pot or in the ground right now, go ahead. It's when we get in the 90s and the 100s, you don't want to plant them. They won't
Anything,
make it. But keep them in a cool place,
yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
garage,
How often do you recommend digging them up and separating them?
about every 3 to 4 years. I'm gonna put these back here with the door prizes.
What kind of fertilizer do you recommend?
Just basic Miracle Grow.
Miracle Grow?
Rose food, some even numbered fertilizer. 12, 12, 12, 8, 8, 8, 15, 15, 15. It's
Like
just
an Osmocote too, like a?
Osmocote. I use Osmocote
Yeah.
and Miracle Grow. Some of it I've sprayed, the liquid you put in the bottles,
Yeah.
and some I've used granular. The granular seems to work better and lasts longer.
Mix it in.
Okay.
Yay.
Anyway,
Who's
thank
gonna
you.
draw? Who's gonna make the draw?
Oh, hold on, I have to get somebody a ticket.